So this is a little pattern that I'm going to use to use all the different textures that we've been thinking about practicing here. So I'm going to use a texture per area on this, and this is going to be my little reference point, and I'm going to make it into a nice little design to use as a reference point to all my textures. So I've got a little bit of base colour down here for the tree, and then while that's still wet, I'm going to draw use my water soluble pencils to draw some textures into that. And I'm going to make some notes and keep a good record of how I created each thing. So this is the shadow side. So I'm using small wavy marks for this side. Into the wet. So remembering things are further away from you, the mark making it smaller. And then boldening up as it comes closer to you. So I'll be wetting the paper as I go along to keep it nice and wet, so that those marks are quite strong. So here's a shadow area here and here. Let that dry off a little bit. Work back into that. I'm going to introduce some green into this grassy area, the foreground. And this is where I'm going to experiment with all the grassy textures. It's quite an abstract style, but it can be used to create more realistic illustrative effects as well. So you use it as according to how you feel. Okay, I'm going to get all my pencils ready. So just some blending needed here. First of all, with the plain water blended in. So side of the pencil, stronger marks, and the more that the water sinks into the paper, you're going to get a nice solid effect there. The more the pencil will dissolve into the paper. So create some nice patterns that's coming towards you. And blend these colours also. Okay, so the mark's now getting smaller as we're moving back. Making sure I've got a good mix of different colours in there. So remember, this is pattern reference, so it doesn't have to be realistic. It's more of a play thing. Okay, let's think of what other textures we'd like to create now. So we could have hills moving away from us in the background. So I'm going to add some more water here. add a little backdrop of green again. Wait for a few seconds actually to let that sink in. So while I'm waiting, I'm going to go back to the tree, the work in the tree, the purple tree. Oh, that's broken. It's blue. Let's just define some of these branches here. Okay, so anything that's looking too harsh, you just simply can blend that in with your brush. Blend it away. I'll start to mix some of these colours together. I'm going to work then into the branches and think about the sort of mark making that I want to make up there. Different greens, I think. So I'm giving quite a lot of pressure onto the side of the pencil, and then hopefully then that is dissolving into that water. So it's quite abstract, and you're going to have to think about how you blend your colours. Okay, let's have a different green. So when this is dried, you can put some quite defined lines onto this with your traditional watercolour, with your brushes. So let's bring some of that green into the foreground, into that still wet area. We need some contrast here so that the rest of it stands out. And on the inspiration piece, there's some fields and things in the background with some much smaller marks. So let's just do some peak patterns like this, just to represent like a field system here. I think there might be some vines and things on it too. Got some vines, I think. So I'm going to wet the paper again. These are the, it's quite wet actually, this black's working quite quickly in here. Again, I'm using the side. Softening that colour with some brown, which I think I can echo in with this tree now. So the marks on the illustration that we're following are kind of wavy lines like this. So you can see now the colours are starting to build up. Some of those colours just seemed really strange to start with, But now we're adding others, it's starting to make a little bit more sense. Keep wetting. Okay, remember it's all about the pattern and texture, isn't it? To remind ourselves what we're doing here. It's great when the pencil really dissolves. Okay, there's a wall or something at the back there. Some kind of definition of the side of the area of the grass. Okay, so we can define, we're going to wait for that to dry now, and then we're actually going to draw on top with dry pencil to just bring the whole thing together. Now we've got our textures in.